Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Corey Center. I am the innovator here to make the world better. I do that by bringing together teams of experts to turn great ideas into revolutionary solutions for their industry. And I am here today with my three favorite leaders, Linda Patton, Tony Thayer, and Terry Ann Richards. Today, we are going to talk about mission. Missions are awesome. I love missions. However, most company missions are terrible. We're going to talk about why that is today. So let's have all of our wonderful leaders introduce themselves and let us know why most missions suck. Let's start with Terry Ann. Who are you and why do most missions fall flat? Why do most missions not inspire?
That's a great question. Okay, so Terry Ann Richards from St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, serial entrepreneur for the last 16 years, and I currently am in the role of a leadership development coach for my own company, Balance Equation Coaching and Consulting. I work with leaders and entrepreneurs globally from an inside out perspective on helping them grow past their own personal glass lid so that they can grow a profitable business, but do so without sacrificing the life they love. And why do missions fail? It's because they're not inspiring. It's because they don't put the effort into it. I think too many entrepreneurs, too many corporations look at what everyone else is doing and try
Mhm.
some basic wording, to put something like a plaque on the wall, right? I think the reality of it is, I mean, there's obviously, three pillars that go with creating a mission. There's your mission, there's your vision, and then there's your values, right?
Mhm.
And all three are really important, and all three have to have sort of like like an invisible thread that pulls between them. And it needs to inspire, it needs to motivate. It actually is sort of the foundation of being the catalyst of inspiration for your team, for yourself.
Mhm.
It's the way you show up for your customers. And I don't think a lot of corporations put that sort of thought into it. I think they leave out the heart. They do a lot of logic. There's a lot of
Mhm.
logic attached to a lot of people's missions, and there's not an emotional driver to it. And I think when you leave emotion out of a mission, it's just a plaque on the wall. Doesn't inspire. That's my thought anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's one of those where it's a statement, and that statement may be accurate even to what you're doing and the external problems that you solve, but it's not actually connecting to anyone, right? It's not connecting to the why or like the what makes it actually important, the thing that would actually have it be inspiring. Yes, thank you for that. And Tony, please tell us a little bit about you and why do most missions fall flat?
Hey, I'm Tony Thayer. I'm out of Berkeley, California. I'm a leadership mentor. I help leaders put together what I call stage 4 tribes to really engage their people and make their work something that has everybody feeling buoyant, energized, and fulfilled when they leave every day. And missions are a great entry for describing what I'm all about because most missions are about me, about the guy who runs the business. Typically, it's a guy.
Mm,
Um, his dream, his idea, his statement of what everybody else is supposed to do, which you can say is ego driven in the sense that ego could stand for externally generated objectives. You will do this, you will believe this. It doesn't really pull people into what they believe or what they care about. So to me, the essential of a mission is to phrase it as an intention of who are we going to be? How are we going to be when we're at work? How are we going to be together? Because then that creates juice and heart, and everybody's got a voice.
awesome, I love that. Thank you. So yeah, most missions fail because there's no voice. There's one voice, one commanding voice that's trying to make everybody stay in line. And that's really not helpful as we've talked about over the last several weeks, right? So thank you. And Linda, please tell us a little bit more about you and why most missions suck.
I'm Linda Patton. I am a leadership trainer and mentor who's losing her voice again. And I want to change the way we lead and change the world around that. And that's sort of my mission, is to change how that happens, to move from, as you're talking about, from command, where it's the one voice from the top that says, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. And and you have all these people below who are going, yeah, I don't think so. I think we could take it this way. And that'd be really kind of fun. I'd really enjoy that. But that's not where the top jock wants to go. I, and then you have the sort of softer feminine side who goes, well, what does everybody think? And they want to get everybody's input, and they want this to be a committee decision, and then nothing gets decided because they can't agree on anything. And I want to bring them both together to have the best of both, to be able to create, as Terry Ann said, a mission statement that truly inspires people to want to do what it is the business is doing. It is the why. It is why are we in business? Why are we going through this? Why are we outselling people? Why are we doing videos like this? Where's the bigger picture that we're
Right.
trying to get to? Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I can totally see that. I've been in so many companies where it's like, here's the mission, this is what we're doing. Like that's cool, but I can think of half a dozen ways that would make that more efficient and easier.
Mhm.
Well, no, we have to do it this way. Okay. I'm loud. I didn't stay in those companies very long. I'm just saying. And as a leader, that's important to know, right? If that's how you're treating people, they're likely to have a reaction like mine, where it's just like, well, if I don't have any creative input, if I can't actually use my genius to make this better, I don't have a desire to do this because I don't matter. Anytime your team doesn't matter, you have a problem as a leader. And TA, you were really mentioning this when you started speaking to the heart. So on the other side, when there is a mission that's filled with heart, what becomes possible when you have that deeply connected, meaningful mission?
Well, I think that there's two sides to business, right? There's the external side where, you have a customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's your internal side where you have an internal customer, which is the people that you employ, that you lead. And I think, I know that when you attach the emotional side to it, the why behind it, that there becomes this, invisible connection between you and your customer, and you and the people who work for you. There's studies all over the world that say that people will work for you because you inspire them, and they'll work for you for a little bit less than that guy over there because he doesn't inspire them. There's no emotional connection, right? Like, people will work for less money because there's a connection to the why and they feel inspired behind it. The same as, when you're putting two apples beside each other in business, and there's one business that you can really attach yourself to the reason they exist and the why behind they exist, and there's this wow factor that comes from that. And then there's the companies that's like, I make apples. Whoa, super exciting. Whoa, right? Like, if I have two options, I'm gonna go with the one that I have more of an emotional charge to. So I think the leading benefit to me is you get to serve both customers, the external ones and the internal ones, at a much deeper level, and people buy into that, right? There are brands out there right now that people would never ever leave because they've bought into what they stand for. Like, for me, I buy a ridiculous amount of Toms, right?
Yes.
Tom shoes. I love them because I am a jeans and a blazer kind of girl, and a t-shirt. And I like my Toms. I will show up and facilitate a program of 500 people in my Toms. But I like that because Toms also, for every shoe I buy, they buy a shoe for someone in need, right? So I'm behind what they do. I'm behind why they do it. I'm behind how they do it because I've, paid a lot of attention to that organization. You could probably bring out a different shoe that is of the same quality, that is of the same, maybe even less of a price, but I'm not going to buy them because I'm not attached to them emotionally. I'm attached to Tom's emotionally. So I think that there's something to be said when you can tie in the emotional side, because we're humans. We're built for connection at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And that brings me up to where I really think about mission. And I look at mission as it's the stand you're taking for your people. Right. So like when I'm working with marketing and I'm helping people develop their message, the stand I take is no one deserves to be ignored. Right. Everyone has a voice that is powerful and meaningful to help somebody else. No one deserves to be ignored. That's a stand I take. And based on that stand, it allows people to come with me to help support me. and unless everybody else that I'm working with know exactly why I care to work with them. Within that, Tony, I'm curious, when it comes to really creating that culture in those teams, when you have a mission that's really standing for your people, whether it's the employees or the clients, ideally it's both, but when you have that mission that's taking a stand, what does that allow to happen within the company and the culture?
You're
I
on
think you're
mute,
on mute,
Tony.
Tony.
Thank you. I just had a bunch of sirens going by. I'm gonna get on the same train that Terry Ann was just on. It's like it's that emotional connection. Like if people feel like they are cared about, then they're free to care about other people. And that includes the internal customers and the external customers. And it's like Apple's done a great job of making their company exciting to buy the products from, and they put in, think how much energy they put in to maintaining that excitement. They have the big annual conference and the rollouts, and it's just a little used model. And I'm surprised that more companies don't jump on that, but to feel emotionally connected, to feel like you belong to something that's bigger than yourself, that's really where it's at. And there are companies out there now who have mission statements like that they exist to make a difference in the lives of the people whose lives are entrusted to them. And by building better people, they allow and empower their people to build a better business. So they actually create this other layer of like, we're about creating big, whole people, because big, whole people create big, whole businesses. And so I even like, for me, mission isn't about what the company does, it's about how the company is with the people it interacts with.
I love that. Mission is how the company interacts with the people it interacts with. That is amazing. And based on that, Linda, I'd love to have you follow up with, when you have this idea of whether you have the committee, right? You were talking about influence and like trying to get a committee decision, or the command where it's like, we're doing it this way. I found the middle ground for me to come to a meeting and be like, I made this decision, and now I want to talk about it because I want to make sure it's the right decision, but I've made this decision. So as long as there's no problem with it, we're going to do this. I'm curious if that's a way that is actually usable, that you found useful, or if I'm missing something in that kind of space when it comes to getting people on mission.
Yeah, Corey, I think it depends on the people that you're working with and the history that you have with them. In the military, if I walked into a room and I said, this is the decision I made, now I want to have a discussion about it to see if it's the right decision and whether you're on board with it. The answer would be, but you're the major. You made the decision. Of course, we may not like it. We're not even sure that if we gave you any input that you would implement it. So sort of the why bother? Yeah, go ahead and do it. So I think, as Tony alluded to, you have to develop that culture where it's not only okay, but it's expected that you as a team member are going to push back on things. You're going to say, well, wait a minute, let's think about this. Let's look at how that would impact our clients. Let's look at how that impacts us. Are we sure that this is the best decision possible? Is this really the best way to be moving forward? Or if we tweaked it just a bit this way, might we not have a better product, a better service, a better experience for our clients, a better experience for us? So I think that's what you're looking for. You can definitely say, hey, I had a brainstorm last night and this is what came out of it. I'd love to know what you guys think. And I really do, and I do value their input because I'm willing to make modifications to that thought process and run with what is the best solution, not just what's my solution, but how is we as a team, what are we willing to support? The key though is not getting into analysis paralysis, where you're constantly going around saying, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could, at some point, you've got to make a decision. You've got to say, okay, then this is what we're going to do. Good, bad, or indifferent. And I was actually talking to a woman who's in software, and we were talking about the Apple way versus the Microsoft way. Microsoft basically says it's good enough to ship and we'll fix it on the next set of fixes.
Mhm.
Apple says, is it something I would work on? Because if it's not of that quality, I don't want it to go out. So whole different mindset around
Totally.
how do you make change? How do you work as a team as to whether you just want to get it out, or do you want it to be the best it possibly can? And are you willing to wait?
Yep. I love that. That reminds me of the Pixar model as well. A lot of the Pixar movies, Frozen, I believe, one character's name stayed the same. They scrapped everything else and started over because they have a brain trust, right? They come together and go, okay, this is where we're at. Let's tear it apart. What's not working?
Mhm.
And when you have that trust within the team to say, you know what, this is a good idea, but this and this and this and this and this don't work.
Yeah.
I'm not into this. This doesn't feel like something I would buy. This doesn't feel like something I would engage with. And I actually just went through this in my own business where I had this whole like funnel that I was building that I thought was this great idea. I was building it for like 2 weeks. And then I finally sat down and looked at the mission and looked at what my people needed and realized I was going the wrong direction. And I cut all of it. I was just like, nope, I'm done. It's not the right thing. They need this.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to do that as leaders. And in my opinion, the mission informs those decisions.
Mhm.
So if your mission is, with the Johnson & Johnson mission, for example, is very, very long. And I'm not even going to try to replicate it because I can't remember. It's essentially about serving families and children. So when they had the big cyanide scare, right, in I think the 50s, they made the decision, despite losing huge amounts of money, to pull all their Tylenol off the shelf, all of it, because it came back to that mission. No, our first priority is to be of service to these people.
Mhm.
And therefore our company will take a hit, but they still exist today because they made that choice to serve their people based on their mission. So in closing, I would love to hear from all of you. What is one thing people can do to make their mission more inspiring without necessarily having to revamp the whole thing? What's one thing that they could look at and maybe tweak or add or take away that will help them make that mission more inspiring and more connected to their people? And Linda, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Corey. I guess it comes down to, at the end of the day, what do we want to represent? What do we, what do we want people to look at our company and go, as you said with Johnson & Johnson, their big thing is around families and children. And so does everything that we do fit with that? And where are the disconnects? So, and I said to you, I threw out this mission statement to change the way we lead. That's what I'm all about. I want to change how people lead, how they lead teams, how they lead themselves, how they lead countries, and really make that change happen. It's broad enough, it fits with my values, that we can play with all sorts of things to make that happen. But as long as it goes back to, are we changing how the world leads? That's inspiring to me. Because as screwed up as we are and as messed up as the election was, something's got to change. Or, why are we doing this? Why are we even trying to make change? So that's what I would say is as long as you can, your vision goes back to it, your values go back to it, that is the piece that everyone can, in essence, wrap their head around and go, yes, everything we do matches that.
Awesome. So make sure your mission is in alignment with your values, in alignment with your culture, in alignment with where you're going and the difference you really want to make.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tony, what is one thing that you would advise people do to make their mission a bit more inspiring and connect to their people?
I'm going to come in on the side of where Linda was and say that in addition to changing the way we lead, it's a matter of changing the way we are. We did a video earlier on vulnerability, and to me, vulnerability is when it's okay to speak to what is, to what's actually happening, and not hide and walk on eggshells. And when one person does that, especially when the leader does that, it empowers other people to do it too. And so when we can start having a conversation about what is our mission and what is it about our mission that inspires us, then we can, so the leader can pull their team together and have a conversation like that. What is our mission? What in our mission do we connect with? And what else do we wish was part of that? What would make it heartful for those of us in this room, where we could talk about it day to day? Like, are you living up to what we said was our mission? Then there's a real accountability of peer coaching, people saying, like, I don't see you living up to what you said last week in the meeting. And that can be like an open, vulnerable conversation too. So really, to me, mission is all about having a touch point where vulnerability can grow.
I love that. And leading with vulnerability as the leader, so that you can actually bring people in to that space to commit to the mission themselves, see how they connect to it, why they connect to it, what they want to do about it, so that they make that commitment. You're not telling them what to do in that recipe. You're actually leading with this raw, vulnerable, like, hey, how can we make this better for all of us?
Yeah, if I
And
may,
getting it.
it's not asking them what to do, it's asking them, what will we be?
Ah, thank you. It's a big distinction. What will we be? We do too much of the time and forget about the being. And Terry Ann, what is one thing that you would let people, that you would offer people to make their mission a bit more inspiring or connect to their people a bit more?
Well, I think depending on whether or not you've been in business for a few years, or if you're just you're just starting a company, and I think the answer is probably relatively the same for both. I think your mission really describes your focus, right? It's the what I do, it's for who I do it, but it really at the end of the day is why I do it. And I think very often, and I think of, if I'll just put like the light on myself, if I think of the companies that I've had in the past, it can be easy to get off course as you grow in your role into your organization. And I think if you start every business meeting with your team, if you start off every Monday morning pep rally, it sort of sets the standard of this is the focus, right? Like this is why we do what we do. And if all of a sudden, and going back to my Apple companies, not Apple, the computer company, apples, real apples, and all of a sudden I bring in these beautiful blue water bottles. Well, is that attached to my why? Like, is my why because I want to nourish, families with, beautiful, luscious, delicious apples? And does my water bottle new object that just got brought in, feed that need? I think you need to have your focus. And for me, if you know your why, it makes it so easy to say yes. And it makes it also so easy to say no. And if you're in the middle, it's a no. So I think you need to have a really strong mission. You need to take out all the extra fluff. People try to use like really big words in their mission. And it's like, what are you trying to say to me? Right? Like it needs to be digestible and understandable by like the common folk. Right? Like people need to be able to go like, that's what they do. That's why they do it. And I can buy into that. I'm excited for that. And so, yeah, remove the fluff, remove all the extra, big shiny words. And it has to be aligned to why you are doing what you do. There is a reason why you're doing it. There's something about it that's emotional, and that needs to come out in the wording you use. And people should be able to look at it and get excited about it, but also know what it is you do. If they can't figure out what you do by looking at your mission statement, you might need to redo it.
Yep, totally.
Absolutely.
Yep. And a big thing in that is don't be clever. Like be simple. Be as simple as you can with your mission statement. Right? Like if you look at it, one of my practices with mission statements is I'll write one and then I'll walk away from it for like a week. And I'll come back and read it and be like, can I actually ascertain what is going on in that statement? And if the answer is no, it gets redone. So like take that test, right? That litmus test. Like if you can't understand your own mission when you read it, it's too complicated or it's missing the mark.
Especially if you wrote it like a year ago. and you like
Yeah.
look at it and you're like, what was I thinking? What
Right.
was my purpose at that very moment? If you as the leader, the owner can't figure that out, nobody else can either.
Right.
And I think you're going
One
in
of
a
my
very
favorite
different direction.
and one of my favorite mission statements that I always come back to when I'm creating my own is TED Talks. It's 2 words: spread ideas. Super clear. Everything they do is exactly aligned with that in some capacity. It's very understandable what they're doing. And while you may not get the how they do that, as soon as you're on their site, oh, it's videos. It's easy. So be simple, tell people how to be, make sure your mission is connected to your values and what really matters to you, and that it's clear. And with that, you can have a mission that actually inspires your team, gets them involved with everything you're doing, and brings a whole new level of creativity, innovation, and commitment. And if you really need some help exploring that mission, creating one that is really going to connect your team, you may want to join us for the Awaken a Leader training coming up in January, where we're going to go really deep into how to create a mission that is exactly in alignment with your values, your people, and the difference you're here to make. Thank you, Linda, Tony, and Terry Ann for being here with me today. It is always a pleasure. We will see you next week, where we dive into some more juicy bits about leadership. Have a wonderful week, everyone.